What's going on, guys? Welcome into the Bulls Report. My name is Patrick Seatman. I will be your host for today's show. And coming up on today's show, we got two fun topics that I'm excited to dive into here. We're going to be talking about Patrick Williams and if a potential breakout season could finally be happening for the former fourth-round pick out of Florida State. And then Fred VanVleet, he declined his player option with the Toronto Raptors yesterday, so we're going to be diving into that and kind of just talking about how he would possibly fit in Chicago. Obviously, he grew up in Rockford, Illinois, so it'd be kind of bringing the kid home, bringing him back to play for his hometown team. But before we get into that, guys, we are actually in a sub-battle here. Me and my man Will Scott, who runs our Celtics Today channel here at Chat Sports, we did a little race, and we decided to have a race to see who can hit 100 subscribers first. I don't want to lose, and especially I don't want to lose to the Boston Celtics, so help me out. Just go down there, hit that subscribe button. It is 100% free as well. But this was Woj from yesterday. He was the one that broke it down and kind of started the Fred VanVleet talk. He said, in the first major domino of free agency, Toronto Raptors all-star guard Fred VanVleet has declined his $22.8 million player option and will become an unrestricted free agent in July, which pretty much makes Fred VanVleet probably the top free agent guard out there. Obviously, you expect Kyrie to return to Dallas. But Fred VanVleet this past year, he really upped his usage rate. And yes, the efficiency did take a hit, 39.3% from the field and 34.2% from deep. That is what stands out to me most about this. But again, the usage rate went up with Fred VanVleet this past year. Just under 20 points a game, just over 7 assists a game. He really was the catalyst and he really was the engine for the Raptors offense this past season. That's why I'm really not too worried about the efficiency kind of dropping off. We've seen this happen where a good player, he ups his usage rate, and we obviously naturally see the efficiency drop. But I do think Fred VanVleet kind of checks a box for the Bulls that they need to, check this offseason. That is to get a true point guard in the building. I love Ayo Dosunmu. We've talked about him on the show in the past. I think he could develop into a really solid starting point guard in the NBA. But the Bulls, or just pretty much the point being, is he may not be fully there yet. And the Bulls still need that true point guard. And I think Fred VanVleet can honestly check that box for the Chicago Bulls. If we remember back to that finals run that Fred VanVleet had, man, he was fantastic, and he was so much fun to watch. I remember that Raptors team with Kawhi, Siakam, they were just a ton of fun to watch, just the way they played basketball. And Fred VanVleet, he was the point guard alongside Kyle Lowry that kind of ran the show, and he really took his game to the next level during that NBA Finals. 14 points a game, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, nothing to write home about, but he shot 40% from 3, and that Finals run, it was actually after he had his kid, if you guys remember, in the playoffs. He took his game to another level. I've always been a fan of Fred VanVleet's game, but I do think, and right now where he's kind of at in his NBA career, he's a 3 on a championship team. I don't think, if we're talking about, if we can take this past finals, for example, Jimmy Butler and Bam, and then Jokic and Murray. I think all those guys are 1s and 2s on championships teams. I don't think Fred VanVleet is there, but I do think he could be a solid 3 and a solid third scoring option. I think Fred VanVleet is a great dude that kind of be like that flamethrower type of player you have as a tertiary scoring option. Where it could be a random night where he'll go and get you 40 on, 15 to 22 and be incredibly efficient. But then also, normal third options are in the NBA, he'll also have a game where he goes and gets you 11 points, 12 points, and he's 3 of 17 from the field, and you're there kind of scratching your head. I think that's kind of where Fred VanVleet's game is a solid third option on a true championship team. I got some more thoughts on this in a second, but I'll just ask you guys. I'll make this actually the pinned comment on today's video. Do you want to sign Fred VanVleet during 2023 NBA free agency? YouTube might throw you an ad break your way. Sit back, let it play, and go give me an S for sign or a P for pass if you would bring Fred VanVleet to the Bulls. I would sign him. I think, my initial gut reaction to this was you know what, yeah, the Bulls do need a starting point guard. They do need somebody to kind of run the show, and, if they do end up keeping LaVine and DeRozan, to just get them easier looks. But the problem with this is no matter what direction the Bulls go this offseason, I just think in general in the NBA, and this is what we've kind of seen come to fruition over the past couple years in the NBA playoffs, I think your leaders on your team either need to be dogs defensively and just bring it every single day and be super intense, kind of like how Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo were. What they brought every day to the Miami Heat well, yes, they would have games, and we've seen with Jimmy in this past finals where he was inefficient. He wasn't kind of that overwhelming offensive force that we saw in round one against the Milwaukee Bucks. But what Jimmy and Bam do defensively and kind of the playmaking ability also that they have, like, I think your leaders either need to be that, or you can just take the opposite end of the spectrum, or they need to just be overwhelming offensive talents like a Nikola Jokic, like a Jamal Murray. Like, I think there's either, you got to kind of pick your poison. I think the Bulls, they just don't really fall into either of them. Like, even the past NBA champions, like the Warriors from last year, they were just had so much overwhelming offensive talent. Then the year before that, like the LA Lakers, like that bubble team, like that team was so good defensively with LeBron and AD, Caruso. Like, those guys were a bunch of dogs, and I feel like the Bulls don't really fall into either. Like, I feel like with the Levine, DeRozan, Vooch kind of as the leaders on the Bulls, and if you could throw Fred VanVleet into there where it's like, yeah, you know what, they are really solid offensive talents, but what do they bring you on the defensive side of the floor? Like, that's really where I think the main problem is with the Chicago Bulls. It's like they got offensive guys, but they're not too good defensively, but they're also not like so good offensively where it kind of masks for their defensive inefficiencies. So I think I would bring in Fred VanVleet, but I really have to see what direction the Bulls head in. So second story on today's show, we're going to talk about my man, Patrick Williams, because there's been talks on Bulls Twitter, what should the Bulls do with him? Should we kind of really fully commit to Patrick Williams and see if he can develop into that star that we expected him to be after taking him with the 4th overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft. But this past season, I honestly think his numbers are really solid. 10 points a game, 4 rebounds a game, just over an assist. But, man, that efficiency is what gets me going. 46.4% from the field, 41.5% from deep. For a guy that had a really janky shooting motion coming out of Florida State, I think he's really flipped that tune, and I think we've shown that hard work that he has put in during the offseason. And I really do think Patrick Williams, the next kind of step for him would just be getting more shots. And I think that's kind of I also wouldn't hate the Bulls rebuild at all. I'll get into that in a second. But if we're talking Bulls shot attempts per game, majority of went to the big three. I mean, Zach LaVine taking 18 a game, DeRozan just under 18 a game as well, and then Vooch 14, and then Patrick Williams and Kobe White only sitting there at 8 points a game. I think the number one thing with Patrick Williams, if he wants to take that next step, is just going to get more looks, and he's just got to get more shot attempts with the Chicago Bulls. But I got 5 reasons why I do think Patrick Williams is going to eventually have that breakout season, why I am a believer in P-Dub. Number one, the efficiency. I mean, shooting 41.5% from 3, I think he shot 4 per game this past season. That is nothing to joke around about. Like, that is a true skill that he has. His numbers on a catch-and-shoot threes are actually better than obviously off the dribble like most guys are in the NBA. But the overall efficiency, and he just really just plays within himself. And I think what we've seen with him, obviously not having the scoring outburst that we would like him to have, but him being that efficient, I think it kind of shows that, like, he's got that winning player genes in him. And then also number 2, I love this past season. Bulls struggled all season. Didn't matter for Patrick Williams. He played all 82 games. I just think it kind of speaks to his work ethic and just kind of what he's about. Because, obviously now in the modern-day NBA, we got guys sitting out back-to-back. You got guys sitting out for soreness, every little excuse that you can think of in the book. Not Patrick Williams. He played all 82. Just speaks to the dog that I think he's got in him. And then also this is probably my most important reason why I believe in Patrick Williams. I think he can guard 1 through 4 at a high level in the NBA. Like, I'm talking postseason basketball. If Patrick Williams is on your team and he switches onto your point guard through your 4 spot, like, I would feel so confident in him sitting down and getting that stop because he's got that really solid length. He moves laterally very, very well. Patrick Williams, he can guard 1 through 4 at a very, very high level in the NBA. And it also kind of speaks to my 4th reason. I think he's got an incredibly high ceiling. Like, we talk about the efficiency. We talk about the ability to guard at the highest level, but he's also got that really sweet just one dribble pull-up midi. And I know it's a very boring and just simple move in the NBA, but that's like what these guys go to in the postseason. Like, when you just need that bread and butter, just like no matter what the defense is doing, Patrick Williams kind of has that move, and it's him getting to that mid-range, kind of taking that one dribble, using his 6'7", 6'8" frame to just rise above. I don't hate the Kawhi comparison, but obviously we call him Baby Kawhi in Chicago. I don't mind it. He's kind of got that one dribble pull-up like Kawhi has. If he could just kind of keep developing it, I think we could really see a higher ceiling for P-Dub. And then also his archetype. Just the 6'7", the 6'8", 3-and-D guys in the NBA, like, those guys win. Like, those guys contribute to winning. Like, we've seen what the Celtics have built. Obviously, them falling short here the past couple of seasons, but they've been on a slight tear through the Eastern Conference because of those 6'7", 6'8" wings that can do it, not only offensively, but really lock in on the defensive side of the floor. So those are my 5 reasons why I believe in Patrick Williams. Well, I'll ask you guys, do you think Patrick Williams will finally break out next season? Give me a Y for yes, or give me an N for no down in the comment section. You guys already know my answer. I do think the breakout is coming for Patrick Williams. It's just a matter of time. Like, I do think, like, Patrick Williams, like, if you just turn the tape on and watch him play, like, he does excite me a ton. He's got this untapped potential, and that's why I really hope the Bulls don't give up on him. And this also gives you more reason to, rebuild and maybe ship off a bunch of these big-name guys like Levine, DeRozan, and Vooch. Like, the reason, like, because, like, I showed you the shot attempts, like, developing Patrick Williams, I think if we're talking like pecking order of what the Bulls need to kind of get done or focus on this offseason, I think it has to be up there because you have to see what you have. Like, you spent a high draft pick on him. Like, might as well get him the touches that he's earned and he's deserved throughout his NBA career. So maybe it's just a little more reason for the Bulls to not be too scared to move off Levine and DeRozan and see what you have in your homegrown kid in Patrick Williams. But this is what Casey Johnson said. He's a reporter for NBC Sports Chicago, and he covers the Chicago Bulls. Just talking about Patrick Williams and his contract situation coming up. He says Patrick Williams still has a lot of believers within the Bulls organization, but that doesn't guarantee he'll get a rookie scale extension this summer. And I just want to say this to the Bulls. Don't give up on him. Like, use your eyes, turn on the tape. Like, his type of build, his type of archetype in the NBA, it just flat out wins. And I think he's shown that he's willing to put the work in with how his three-point shot has become pretty much unshootable his rookie year to now he's shooting above 40%, played all 82. I think it just kind of speaks to that work ethic and just that dog that he has inside him. I'm all in on Patrick Williams. I would love to see what he can turn into for the Chicago Bulls. But guys, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. These are a ton of fun to do these videos and just chop it up and talk Bulls with you guys. We're your one-stop shop, news, rumors, whatever it is throughout the NBA offseason. Just go hit that sub button below. And as always, go Bulls.